Greetings from Wyoming. On July 10th, 1890, it became the 44th state to enter the Union. With a population of only 515,000, this state has the fewest people in the nation. A lot of states have cowboys, but only Wyoming is officially nicknamed the Cowboy State.
In the 1920s, best known is Cheyenne Frontier Days, which started back in 1897, and it is still going on today. And that is just about the largest in the country as for an outdoor rodeo.
And the symbol on the license plate is a cowboy riding a bucking bronc.
And there was a man named Clayton Danks, who was a rugged cowboy from Fremont County, and he rode the horse Steamboat. That the shock effect would sometimes cause a cowboy to have a nosebleed. Now, that's a horse.
Few outsiders realize that Wyoming has another well-earned nickname, the Equality State. Back in 1869, the territorial government granted women the right to vote, a full 50 years before the 19th Amendment guaranteed that right to women nationwide.
The territorial delegate was Joseph Carey. He sent a telegram back to the Wyoming legislature and said, the states don't want to let us in because we let women vote, and none of them do. And the Wyoming legislature sent a telegram and said, Wyoming is ready to wait 100 years if need be. We are not coming in without the women.
And so, bright women who had been educated in the East, who couldn't vote, they weren't just suffragettes, they were just people who were damn sick and tired of being disenfranchised, and they came west because they could get the right to vote and participate.
Over the years, women have been named to significant positions in Wyoming. The first woman judge in America was a woman named Esther Hobart Morris, who was the Justice of the Peace up in South Pass City. The first woman governor anywhere in America was Nellie Taylor Ross, elected in Wyoming in 1924.
Harriet Elizabeth Byrd carried on the tradition of Esther Hobart when she became the first African-American woman elected to the Wyoming state legislature.
The same ideals that Esther Hobart Morris had while I was in the Wyoming state legislature.
For many people, Wyoming is all about the beauty of its natural wonders. But this is also the home of that all-American tall tale, the jackalope. Taxidermist Doug Herrick may have concocted the jackalope as a practical joke in the late 1930s, but before long, the mythical creature was turned into a tourist attraction.
I actually shot one. The jackalope that I shot is on display here, and he's one of the larger ones that has been ever shot in the history of Wyoming.
Though farms and cattle ranches cover most of Wyoming, the state's greatest source of wealth lies beneath the topsoil.
We are, of course, the #1 producer of coal in the United States.
That translates to more than 400 million tons of coal a year. But the fastest growing business may be tourism. Yellowstone alone welcomes 3 million tourists every year. The first white man to see Yellowstone was John Coulter, an experienced explorer who had traveled the continent twice with Lewis and Clark. Rather than return home in 1807, Coulter went to Wyoming. He came back with fantastic tales of a land of fire and brimstone, a place where flames burned underground and smoke rose from a deep pit. After trapper Jim Bridger traveled above the Snake River 50 years later, he told stories of water puddles that could boil an egg, towering plumes of steam, and entire mountains made of glass.
People would say, well, he's just lying. There's really no thing like that.
In 1871, the first scientific expedition to Yellowstone Valley finally confirmed that the tall tales of Coulter and Bridger were actually true.
This was the first time that parts of the park were photographed. And so people in the East, in Washington, D.C., were able to see how wondrous Yellowstone Park truly was. And so then they began talking about maybe this should become a national park.
In 1872, President Grant signed the law creating Yellowstone, which carved out of the territory of Wyoming a park as big as the state of Connecticut, the first national park in the world.
The geysers of Yellowstone are the result of lava flowing beneath the park. Magma heats water that must be released via convection. The lava's proximity to the surface is the cause of most of the wonders here, leaving the park's visitors with a heavenly vision of phenomena that few, at first, believed to exist.
Once you go to Yellowstone, you'll never forget it. It's beautiful.
Their given names are forgettable: Robert Leroy Parker and Harry Longabaugh. In the lore of the Wild West, however, their aliases will live forever: Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Butch was born in rural Utah in 1866, the son of Mormons. Harry Longabaugh was born a year later in Pennsylvania. but his family soon made its way west.
Butch Cassidy got his nickname from being a butcher in my hometown of Rock Springs. The Sundance Kid got his name because after his first robbery, he was arrested and jailed in Sundance, Wyoming.
Butch successfully eluded the law for years, but was captured and sent to the Wyoming Territorial Prison in 1894.
It was the only time that he did any prison time, and it wasn't for robbing a bank, and it wasn't for robbing a train, it was for stealing horses up near present-day Lander, Wyoming.
And he was supposed to spend 2 years here behind our bars, but after a year and 6 months, he was actually pardoned by the governor.
Butch and Sundance eventually teamed up and gathered a gang of like-minded bandits. Their headquarters was a remote Wyoming canyon called the Hole in the Wall. Though undeniably outlaws, not everybody viewed them as villains.
Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid used to claim that they did not use violence. And Butch Cassidy said, "I never shot anyone." Now, he wasn't about blowing up a safe.
By the 20th century, the Wild West era was coming to a close. Butch and Sundance bade farewell to Wyoming in 1901 to continue their criminal career in South America. Some say they died in a shootout with the Bolivian army. Others claim Butch escaped and quit his life of crime.
Look here, I'm talking about America, sweet America.